housing during the current flooding that has claimed 24 lives in the region.
Von der Leyen paid a quick visit to a flood-damaged region in southeastern Poland and met with the government heads of the affected countries, Poland, Austria, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia.
I am here to reassure you that Europe stands by your side. This is a moment of need, of disaster, of natural disaster, and we have all to stand together to overcome the challenge. And it was for me, on one hand, heartbreaking to see the destruction and the devastation through the floods. But I must also say it was, on the other hand, heartwarming to see the enormous solidarity between the people in your countries, the volunteers, the countless volunteers helping day and night, tireless, to overcome this disaster. Europe is by your side.
She said funds will be quickly available for repair from the EU's Solidarity Fund. But saying it would not be enough in the face of enormous destruction, she also pledged 10 billion euros from what is called the Cohesion Fund for the most urgent repairs.
This is very important that we mobilize whatever is possible. On one hand, there is the Solidarity Fund, which we can use to rebuild infrastructure, like roads, highways, railways, and bridges, for example. But I think this will not be sufficient when we see the enormous width of the disaster. So we have discussed that we will do a bold step forward with cohesion funds. Normally, cohesion fund goes with co-financing from the member states. Here we say it's 100% European money, no co-financing. These are extraordinary times, and extraordinary times need extraordinary measures. At first sight, 10 billion euros are possible to mobilize from the cohesion funds for the countries that are affected. This is an emergency reaction now.
She said no contribution from the individual countries would be required for the money to be released, and stressed that in such a crisis swift action was required.
Spokesperson for the Secretary General of the United Nations, Stephanie Dujarric, told journalists on Thursday that the UN continues to urge the parties to recommit to the full implementation of Security Council Resolution 1701 and return to a cessation of hostilities to restore stability in the South Lebanon and northern Israeli region.
The United Nations is closely monitoring the situation in South Lebanon and northern Israel. The Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Janine Hennis-Plasschaert, has been in constant contact with all the relevant parties to encourage restraint and calm.
The Secretary General and senior staff, and especially colleagues on the ground, have been following the situation very closely in terms of what developments in South Lebanon and in northern Israel. Our special coordinator for Lebanon, Janine Hennis-Plasschaert, has been in constant contact with all concerned actors to urge for restraint and calm, as well as to support diplomatic efforts to end this cycle of violence urgently. We continue to urge the parties to recommit to the full implementation of Security Council Resolution 1701 and return to a cessation of hostilities to restore stability. The leadership of the UN peacekeeping mission, UNIFIL, has also been in touch with parties on both sides of the blue line. Let's be honest, do we have a magic wand to stop the conflict? The Secretary General doesn't, and I think he's been very clear on that. What we have are mechanisms, whether it's through a special coordinator, whether it's through UNIFIL, whether it's the special coordinator in Jerusalem. And I will remind you, as you of course well know, that these mechanisms and these mandates were created by the Security Council, were created by member states. So it is, while I'll go back to my last answer, it is important that member states also exercise a positive influence on moving towards de-escalation. So when we talk about Lebanon, so the tens of thousands of Lebanese who've had to flee their homes in the south can return home, and the tens of thousands of Israelis who've had to flee their homes can also return.
China urged Israel on Thursday to comply with a non-binding resolution passed by the UN General Assembly on Wednesday, demanding that Israel end its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory within 12 months.
大家下午好，欢迎。
It also demands Israel to withdraw its military forces and halt the expansion of settlements in the West Bank of the Jordan River.
有关各方，特别是
All the relevant parties, particularly Israel, should seriously comply with the resolution of the UN Assembly and immediately stop the military operations in the Gaza and stop its activities of illegal settlement in the West Bank of the Jordan River. Other countries concerned should also take responsible attitudes and serious actions to push for a full implementation of the resolution.
地区的紧张局势升级表示担忧。
A majority of members, including China, voted in favor of the resolution. Lin also urged the US to withdraw its mid-range missiles from the Philippines, saying the deployment has been a move to turn back the history, seriously threaten regional national security, intensify geopolitical confrontation.
中方对有关的报道感到严重。
China closely follows the relevant events and opposes any actions that violate Lebanon's sovereignty and security. We are concerned over the possible escalation of tension.
Hey, thanks for joining us on WIC TV Network. Make sure you subscribe at www.brotherl.com. That's www.brotherl.com.
In the region. China calls on all parties concerned to effectively maintain peace and stability in the Middle East region. China is seriously concerned about the relevant reports. We have repeatedly expressed strong opposition to the deployment of US mid-range missiles in the Philippines. Such behavior is a move to turn back history, seriously threaten regional national security, intensify geopolitical confrontation, and has aroused high vigilance and concern among regional countries. We urge the US to address the concerns of regional countries, correct its erroneous practices, stop provoking military confrontation, withdraw its mid-range missile system as soon as possible, according to its previous public commitments, and not go further down the wrong path.
我们敦促有关国家正视地区国家的呼声。
The US Army transported a mid-range missile system from the US to the northern Philippines as part of combat exercise with Philippine troops in April. China has strongly opposed increased US military deployments to the region, including to the Philippines, and warned this could endanger regional stability and peace.
今天的记者会到此结束，谢谢大家。
Well, that's all for the world news. We will see you at 7 p.m. with News Mongolia. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Make sure you visit us at www.brotherl.com. Peace.